Hello everyone, I'm here today with a flip-through video. Today I am showing the first half of my New York 2022 album, and I did a whole prep thing, so if you've been following along you saw that I'm choosing to use a Disney album, or what I assume was designed to be Disney. I'm using it for New York instead, and I love it. I love the black and white and the fun designs, and I love that on the inside it's got red polka dots. That's pretty cool. Alright, so let's get in here and take a look. Obviously this is a 6x8 album, but I have a mix of page protector styles in here. So like to start off with, I have 4x8, I have 3x8. I think, can't remember if it's in the first half or the second half. I know I had planned an insert that had the two horizontal 3x4s. I can't remember exactly where I left off here, so we'll see if that's in here. But I'm not afraid to use different sizes. I used to hate that years ago. I wanted everything to line up perfectly at the edge. Now I've gotten over it. I don't care. So I'm all for the different sizes. So this is my opening page here. And it was super simple. I had background paper with buildings on it that looked like New York, so of course I had to use that. And then these are stickers from Pip Sticks, again made to look like New York, and so I just stuck those on there, and I just used a quick roller stamp to make this. This is from a set by Kelly Perky, which is now Paper Person. So this came together really quickly, and it was simple, but I love the way it looks. So on the back side, I just have a shot of my plane at my gate as I was waiting to go. And then I did express, this was my first time flying into LaGuardia. The other times I've gone to New York, I've either done JFK, and then one time I even did Newark. So now I can say I've hit all three. So I have that in there. And then I have my boarding pass here, and masks were still required on planes. I still wear them even though they're not required. But I wanted to have a shot that is what was like to fly at that time, because this was the very end of February into early March. Then here's when I landed. I loved that it had this little billboard thing right here that says welcome to New York City, so I did feel welcomed. And then here I just grabbed some airport shots, talked about my experience going into LaGuardia. Not my favorite, now I know. And then just my directions, because I went from LaGuardia all the way to the Cloisters in Upper Manhattan. It's actually just north of Harlem, so it was quite a distance, but that's where I was meeting my friend, so I didn't stop at my room or anything in between. I just went right there. And then here we are. This is my friend who lives in New York, and so we met at the Cloisters. This is outside. You can kind of see it in the background. I let her take the selfie because I kind of suck at them. But I love that she did it sort of off kilter, and so we have a very interesting angle and background there, so I dig that. There's a better view of the front door, if you will. And then just talked about how it was both, you know, a first experience for both of us, because even though she lives there, she had never been there. And then I decided to include the map here because while I've been to the regular Met, the one that's in the heart of Manhattan, many times, I've never been here, and so I wanted to include the map that is specific to the Cloisters, but I had to decorate it, so I added some things on it. But the map is still available, so anybody who's flipping through this, they could open this, they could still see the map if they wanted, they could get the information about all the points that they have listed on here. These are the main things, the main attractions around the museum. So those are all still fully accessible, which I love. But then I chose to do, I printed a 6x8 photo, and when I first designed this, I thought it was going to fill up the entire back, and then I decided to cut off a little bit and do a border with some fun stickers here. So I like that better, and I'm glad it turned out that I could use it that way. And then this was just kind of our first real stop once we were inside the museum. And these pictures were so gorgeous that I didn't want to do a whole lot to them. So there's not journaling here, that comes later. But I just did like a puffy sticker, added a little phrase to the card I had. Nothing too crazy. So one of the things I'm most excited about in this album is that I got to use a new page protector style. And they are made by scrapbook.com. And it comes with a built-in flip, so I didn't have to score it, I didn't have to use my fuse tool, fold it myself, nothing. It just came that way. And these are made for the 6x8 size. There are 2 different variations. I didn't check to see if they're making any for bigger sizes. If they don't yet, I'm sure they will eventually. But I have fallen in love with them for this album in particular. So I have this here. So this is how it looks when it's laying flat. It all goes well together. If you didn't know better, you might think that's the page. But then the flap lifts and I'm able to get 2 more photos on the underside, and then I did my journaling under there as well. And really, it was a lot of flat embellishments here, just phrases, and then 1 little puffy sticker that was in that same shade of green, which might be hard to match for something else, but it worked perfectly here. And then here I have a 3x8 insert, as you can see, and I have a little tab here indicating that there is a flip up here. So you can see that underneath. And again, didn't do a whole lot here. I just cut up these phrases and put those on there because these are gorgeous and I didn't want to distract from the photos. And so here we are going on to a different part of the museum. I loved the look of these, hence the name Cloisters. So I had to feature these. I loved it. Did a close-up shot here. And then I absolutely am in love with this vellum. This is from a set from Stampin' Up! And it has 4 different designs if I remember correctly, but you get them in both a white background and a black background. So if you love the patterns, you double up essentially. And I love them so much, I actually ordered a second set. So that tells you I plan to use them a lot. And so I mainly did this, but with a little chunk of what I had left over, I layered it here as well. On this one, I decided to do the full 6x8 and keep it that way. And I love how this turned out as well. I love all the detail you can see in here, but yet I still had room for 3 large phrases. And that doesn't happen that often. It just worked with the design. So I chose to do that and work in some of the colors that appear over here so that it would all match and feel cohesive. And then on this side, I do have a photo flip here, and that's why I attached the little thing that says lift to make sure people knew that there's something up above there. Let me do this. There you go, so you can see it. So more stained glass, just a quick phrase. And I kept this pretty simple too. All of these items I've included are very flat. So we're continuing on through the museum. I had so many pictures. I seriously had to cut back because I wanted to put everything in there, but there just isn't room. So I had to pick and choose. And so this one, again, very simple. I loved this card. I had the feel of it just seemed to work really well with all of the medieval architecture and sculptures and things. So I chose to use that. I did a little ink splattering on it, stuck a phrase on there. That's it. You know, these, again, very flat. I was trying to keep the bulk down. So I think that helped. And then over here, included some journaling. Again, just 1 phrase, and it's flat. Nothing 3D happening here. On this side of this layout, I just wanted to feature all of these windows because I do love the stained glass. I have a slightly puffy thing here. It's just a chipboard star, nothing too major though, still relatively flat. And then on this side, once again, I have a flip page. And again, looking at this, I tried to design these so that if you were looking at it and didn't know better, you'd think, oh, it goes together just fine, the way that you're seeing it. But then underneath, there's the flip. So 2 extra photos on there. I even got, or 2 pockets. I even got to use this. When I first got this set of phrases, I'm like, okay, I don't generally take selfies really in museums unless it's something really special. I don't want him to use that, but it worked out to use it here. The color was even pretty good with what I had going, so I am pleased with that. And then this was my last page of photos from inside the museum. Again, very simple here. I did choose to use a little acrylic star there because it was red and sparkly, and that's kind of hard to pass up. And I felt like this whole way I was doing really well with keeping things flat, so I splurged and I used that. When we left the museum, my friend was driving, and so she said, let's drive on Riverside on the way back. It's a pretty drive, kind of up above the river, and there are some monuments there, and we'll just see what we see. And I said, okay. And we happened to find this memorial for General Grant along the way. Neither of us knew it was there, but we thought, well, this is a beautiful building from the outside. What is it? Let's go in and check it out. And it turns out this is what we found. And they give you this brochure when you check in if you want it, and I did. And so I chose to keep it intact, so you can open this way, and you can open, oops, You can open this way and see all the info. And then on the very back, because it was just hours and things about visiting or whatever, I don't need to see that. I chose to put this 4x8 card on top of it and do my journaling here. I did make it match this page, but it goes with the full brochure here. And I just used one of these strips from Citrus Twist to attach that. It was the perfect size, so it fit in quite nicely. And then these go together. I made this so that it would match. So there's lots of yellow happening here, but I'm okay with that because I love yellow. And again, because these are so lovely, I didn't do a whole lot. I just picked out a card that matched, did this little thing here, and that's it. And then over here, I wanted to make sure I used the photos. There was a couple there, strangers to us, but we took their photo, they took ours, and I just love how it turned out. And then I had this nice big close-up that I did. I wanted to make sure that was included. It's very patriotic. And I just used some chipboard. These are all from Ellie's studio. They come from the same set. So it worked to just use those all together. And frankly, I kind of like it when things are easy like that. After we left the Grant Memorial, we were again driving back, and I happened to spot this out the window. And I love the movie Fools Rush In, so I recognized right away that it was Grace Papaya. And I said, is that decent? Like, can we stop? And she said, oh yeah, you know, it's decent. Let's stop so you can have the experience. So we did. She double parked. I jumped out, got us some food, tried it in the car. I will say it wasn't like the best thing I've ever had in my life. It wasn't overly spectacular, but it was good. And now I can say that I've had it. So after a full day of sightseeing with my friend, she dropped me off at my hostel. So this is my room that I had. I had a private room with my own bathroom and everything. And I was pretty beat, and so I decided to just watch some Star Wars stuff on my iPad and just relax and have a quiet evening from there on out, and it was glorious. And then the next morning I got up to start my day. I was going to the main Met Museum, open to close, and so I needed fuel for that. Stopped by a coffee place, and this was actually on my way to the train. I didn't realize, I saw that it just said Ralph's. I didn't realize it was part of Ralph Lauren, so I didn't know that when I went in there, but kind of interesting that they actually have their own coffee place in New York. And I loved the floor, and so I decided to take snapshots of that and include it in my layout. I will say that this style page protector is not one that I use a whole lot. I find it very difficult to use. I think it's because of the squares here that are 4x4, and then the tiny ones. These are always a challenge for me, but even these, there's something about the square factor that it makes it difficult, so I tend to stay away from these. But I have a bunch, so I'm trying to use them when I find things that will fit. So it's not the best layout I've ever done, but I'm okay with it. And then here was my view right before I got on the train. Actually, I was looking at this before I got on the train, but this is the way the structure works, so it's okay. But I wanted to feature the Empire State Building there since I had a good photo. And then here was off to the Met. Lovely full 6x8 photo here, and there were people here having photos taken. And I didn't like that, so I decided, well, I could cover that up. So I used this huge wood veneer from Ellie's studio to cover them up, and you can't even tell they're there unless you look really closely. And over here, I bought a shirt when I was there, and this was the tag that actually came with the shirt, and I just put my own baker's twine in there. I adhered it, and then I did a sequin pocket up here to match. And of course, if it matches this side, it has to match the other side too. So I made sure that it matched this Tiffany window that they had here. And I love sparklies, so I'll use sequins pretty much any chance I get. And then these are just some random pictures of kind of the rotunda of where I came in. Nothing too crazy there. This is another interesting page configuration where it's got the 3x8 plus these. I also haven't used this one a lot. I like it. I just haven't used it a lot yet. So this was a bit of a challenge, but I enjoyed putting it together. And then I was on to all of the knights and armor area, and I really had fun with this one. You can tell it decorated a lot. The other one was quite minimal. This one, not so much. This has a lot happening, and I freaking love these letters. They fit in there perfectly, edge to edge. They were the perfect red. Super happy with that. And then here I just did some stamping right on the photo and really kept it minimal. I didn't even really do anything with these photos. So it was just this and this. And then here was just looking into some of the other areas. I couldn't explore everywhere because I was there specifically to see this exhibit, but I wanted to fit in as much as I could from other areas. So I did feel like these matched pretty well, and so I would put those in. But then here is the main reason I wanted to go to the Met that day, and it's for this exhibit, Inspiring Walt Disney, the Animation of French Decorative Arts. And let me tell you, I had a lot of fun scrapping these photos because they were so colorful. It really let me play with some things that I wouldn't normally use. Like, I'm not a big pink person, but it appeared in here, and so I was able to pull some fun stuff, even some orchid color to match this, and I love it. And since this was another one of those flip pages, I got to do this on top. I love this castle so much, so I just fussy cut it out of a 3x4 card, put it on there, did a little stamping here. That's it. And then again, just some lithographs, I think they're called, just these from around the exhibit. And then they have the Snow White book, the Sleeping Beauty book. Very blingy, very colorful, and I wanted to showcase that. And I just got really lucky that I happened to have these two pendant type pieces from Ellie's studio, and they were in the exact colors of what I had. So how could I not use them? And then as I went through the exhibit, they showed more pieces of French art that were influences on the designers for several of the movies. This one's particular to Beauty and the Beast, but I wanted to include those as well, but I didn't do anything too crazy. You know, circle embellishment, did some stamping here. This is a piece of chipboard, nothing too crazy. Over here, I did some more sequins again, and there were so many different colors on both sides that I just kind of said, you know what, I'm just going to pull whatever I want out of there and use it, because none of it really matches. I tried to get it to match somewhat, but it was just kind of wild, and so I just decided, I'm going to roll with it. And then because gold appeared in a lot of the stuff, I did do some gold splattering just to tie it all together. And then this was my lunch, so all I did was keep the receipt here and do a little piece of chipboard. That's it. It was just lunch. I didn't need anything major. And then I went on to see some other things after that, and so I was talking here about how I love the Met, and I pretty much go every time I'm in New York. And then I moved on to the Asian area to see a couple of things, and so I'm talking about what I saw there. Minimal embellishments here as well. And then here I had just these lovely photos that really had a lot of gold, red, and black. And I love that color combination, and I wanted to feature it. So I used that here, and then I added this sparkly little tab. It actually is what I cut off of this old tag. I've had this forever. And I thought, well, I could just cut off a little chunk and use that. So I did that. And then when you flip up, there's just a little puffy sticker right there. Then here again, really just a card and flat phrases as the embellishments. And then this was the last thing that I saw, and I talked about how this stag reminded me of Harry Potter and his Patronus, and I was going to the Harry Potter store that night, so I thought that was very fitting. So again, though, I got to use pink, which I wouldn't expect, but it worked out here. And then here, right across from the Met, kind of kitty corner, there's the Ukrainian Institute. And I knew it was there. And so I thought, well, I'm going to walk down there when I'm done at the Met, because the war had just started, I think, like 3 days prior to me going. And they were flying the flags out front, and they had this sign. And it really hit me, pulled at my heartstrings. And so I thought, you know what? This is a major thing happening in the world. I want to document that. So I have that in there. And then I have, again, I did a semicircle, just used my 1 1/4 inch punch and punched out a little semicircle there to use it as my tab. And then that is what you see underneath, just talking about seeing that. And then I only have one more. It's the back of the insert. And really, I just needed something as filler to kind of make the transition from the Met to Harry Potter, because the next section is all Harry Potter store layouts, and it's a completely different feel. So I just wanted to kind of show this as I'm walking up to meet my friend at the Harry Potter store. The lights had come on, and it was quite lovely. So now you've seen the first half of my album. It's quite full, but I think I've worked really hard to keep it pretty flat so that this thing will actually close when it's done. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing what I've done, and I hope you'll come back for part 2. Thanks for watching.